Welcome to In the Hoop. I'm George Ayub with my buddy Bobby Mills. You may have recognized us from In Zone Online. This is our basketball version. We're going to talk about Nebraska high school basketball, particularly local teams and area teams, and we'll be with you all winter. So thanks for joining us. We appreciate that. We'll try to have a show every Monday. We're going to do this show, and then we're going to take a couple weeks off. That's good work if you can get it.
You bet it is.
Absolutely. So anyway, welcome. We are at Grand Island Central Catholic High School. We just did a ball game here last Friday night, Central Catholic versus SCOTUS. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but the local teams are kind of off to a bit of a rough start. The Northwest girls and Northwest boys have winning records, but Grand Island Senior High School girls and boys are both 0-4. The boys last week lost to two good teams. Fremont, they lost 49-39, and then Bellevue West came in, and Bellevue West is 5th or 6th in the state.
Yeah, they were preseason pretty high.
Very high, and you know, Senior High stayed with them for a while and lost that 45-35. Northwest boys, as I said, you know, last week they got their second victory in overtime against a good Seward team. The first week they played Central City and blew them out. Huge. And then the Central Catholic, the game we saw here against Columbus SCOTUS. SCOTUS ranked very high this week in boys in the power points, I think 3rd or 4th. 3-0. That was a good game. The Central Catholic lost at 50-47. But we broadcast that game. What were your impressions of the Crusaders?
I thought they played very well. I thought, you know, they jumped out 11-0, and of course we knew it wouldn't end up that way, but I thought they played SCOTUS very well. They were out, I mean, physically they didn't match up very well with SCOTUS, but a couple of big players came through and kept the Crusaders in the game, and I think, you know, this will make GICC better down the line. We haven't seen the best part out of this team yet, or maybe Grand Island Senior High either.
You know, Central Catholic's game was a real test for them early on, and that'll always help them. And I know Coach Gavers will use that to his advantage there. And Heartland Lutheran, they're 2-2 on the year, and you know they've played a pretty tough schedule so far. But they've Humphrey St. Francis, they lost to them Friday and came back Saturday. The big win over Nebraska Christian. Their opponents, they are 11-5. They played some good teams. Isaac Splattstasser, the senior, they have a pretty good crew down there, and I think Coach Wagnus is going to probably have them in shape in February when it really counts.
I think so. You know, that was a big deal, him scheduling Humphrey St. Francis. He loses 4 seniors off that team, puts them on the schedule this year, goes up there, not afraid, and he has that program rolling out there. That's a nice program. If you have a chance to see that Splattstasser kid play, he's exciting.
Terrific.
And the brand of basketball that Coach Wagnus plays is exciting, run and gun.
Isaac's he's a terrific athlete. I had a chance to coach him in Legion baseball this summer, and he's a terrific athlete, but he's also a hard worker, great team player, and so I think and he has a good supporting cast there. So I think Heartland Lutheran's going to make some noise here before the season's over.
You bet.
On the girls' side, Coach Kelly Jeffries has a young Islander squad. They're going to struggle early when you're young, and they have they lost to Fremont and Bellevue West this weekend. They have played opponents. Their total opponent's record is 9-7, a winning record. So right out of the gate, it gets kind of tough for Coach Jeffries. We saw Central Catholic here, 2-2. Impressions on the girls' side? You called that game.
The girls they'll have to grow up. You know, the same thing. They have some girls on the team, McKenna Kime and a couple of other girls that have been around before, but they've got a tough schedule. And just like the boys, Central Catholic always has that Centennial Conference to contend with, and they don't quite have the beef that they had last year on the team. So it's going to take them a while.
Right. And you're right. They'll build around McKenna Kime, you know, and she can score the basketball, and the other girls will get involved, and I think they're going to be fine. So Heartland Lutheran are off to a tough start. The girls, again, they've played their opponents have winning records. Are off to an 0-5 start, and
it's tough.
It's been and you as it is on the boys' side, you hope that helps them, down the road.
They got the height out there, but
they'll
have to, we'll see what happens. Good luck.
And
to
Grand Island Northwest girls picking up from that volleyball state championship. They got off to a 2-0 start. They beat Creighton, then they go into Seward. The next night, after Seward's 104 game winning streak is broken, and Seward was looking for somebody to slap upside the head, and of course Northwest girls come in, and so
Just caught them on the wrong
Caught
night.
'em on
They-
the wrong night.
possibility they'll see him in that tournament, the holiday tournament
Right.
out of Northwest too. So
yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit. That's
Right.
that's going to be a great tournament. So Northwest girls, they're a really solid team. That's a strong junior class that they have there.
Oh, I'll
And,
say.
and the transfers that helped them in volleyball, I think, will help them in
Absolutely.
basketball with there. So we have some notable performances this week, Bobby. You
Yes,
want to
we do.
read a couple of those, and we'll.
Well, first of all, I'm kind of proud to read about Luke Glenn because he's one of my 1,000-yard rushers in football. In fact, a 2,000-yarder. Pretty good on the hardwoods too. He against Franklin, he had 11 points, 11 assists, 4 rebounds, 5 steals, and he drove the bus home. So
Yeah,
he had a
as-
stellar
Yeah,
performance.
as you said before the show, if he was on a fantasy team, I mean, you'd want
Oh,
this
my
guy.
goodness, yes,
Yeah,
but,
that's a great effort. Couple Aurora girls, they won 2 games over the weekend. The early weekend, not this past weekend. Allison Pinner, a sophomore, started her first varsity game.
Wow.
17 points, 6 rebounds, 3 steals, 1 assist. And I think she handed out water at one time too.
I think well, the assist
Can you
was
do
the
any
one.
more, Allison? Come on. And then the next night, Taylor Thiel, I think I'm saying that name
You bet.
correctly. If I'm not, I apologize. 17-6. She had 2 steals and a block. That was against Adams Central as Aurora gets 2 wins over there. So Taylor's a junior. So that was good. And then Jordan Lindbergh up in Broken Bow as they beat Ord last Saturday.
That's a big
55-30.
win.
That's a big win. 13 points, 15 rebounds. So Jordan delivered. And then Riley Shoemaker, you saw that game.
Oh boy, wasn't that spectacular? I think George, you were keeping track of the points, and he had 18 at halftime
Yeah,
and something
right.
like that. That's
He
amazing.
ends up with 27 points, 14 boards, and really kept Central Catholic in the ball game.
He did.
In
He had-
long stretches. Really did a nice job under the basket. So those are your performances of the week, and each of those young basketball players, Luke Glenn, Allison Pinner, Taylor Thiel, Jordan Lindbergh, and Riley Shoemaker will get a certificate, and we'll send that out to the school, and congratulations to them. So
You bet.
what are your impressions in the early season for high school hoops? You know, everybody talks about Omaha Central, of course, being the big dogs in Class A, and they're off to a good start. But and then the Seward defeat. Other impressions from the beginning of the basketball season?
Well, Central's going to be tough in Class A, but I went down to Sutton, and this is amazing because Sutton had 1 practice after football, and then they played a Jubilee game against these boys here at Grand Island Central Catholic and tore them up. 1 practice, and they looked so good against Lincoln Christian, who was preseason rated number 8, I believe, down there Saturday night. That's a good basketball team, but they're going to be a force along with Hastings St. Cecilia. They had a football hangover,
Right.
They're starting to gel early, which is not good news for most people.
Right.
Donovan Trouble has a nice team, although they didn't play well Saturday night,
Right.
but they still have a nice team.
I think one of the issues in the early season will be the consistency that you might get later on with more
yep.
practices, more game time, just the timing, playing together. And obviously, as you know, there will be a football hangover probably up until Christmas.
Probably will.
These kids played late into November on a lot of these teams.
Well, look at Norfolk Catholic. They
Right.
lost to Wahoo Newman, and they go through this every year, but look out after Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. Hastings and Northwest are both in the top 15 in the boys' power points this week, and Class C1 Gibbon 7. Adams Central comes in at 4. But look at how I did this.
I've done it, George.
The show was going to be called Two Old Guys Talking Hoops, but we couldn't get
done it.
that on a T-shirt.
And I couldn't stand on my head and read that.
Right,
So.
exactly. Sutton comes in at 8 in C2, Ravenna 12, Hastings St. Cecilia 13. There's some good C2 teams.
Right around this
right
area.
around
Get out
this
and see
area.
a game,
Yeah,
and-
And I really think you're right. I think that could be a terrific battle down the stretch. Spalding Academy is Spalding Academy is
Right.
4th in
They have a nice
in
team.
D2. They have a nice team. Osceola comes in at 11th on that's on the boys' side. On the girls' side, any thoughts on what
Well-
we might be looking at?
Well, for one thing, I can't wait until Christmas for that tournament at Grand Island
Yeah.
Northwest, But
Who are some of those teams? Why don't you tell our viewers?
well, first of all, this is like I think there's number one team is going to be their Seward, number 2 Beatrice, number 5 Holdridge, and preseason 8 was Northwest. I can't think of the other team that's going to be there. There's 6 teams. It's a Thursday, Friday.
And Seward's there.
Yes, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 27, 28, and 29.
Yeah.
So that's a mini state tournament, and the boys' side isn't that bad either.
No, that boys' side will be also very competitive. So yeah, that'll be a chance for local basketball fans to get out and see some really good Class B hoops.
St. Cecilia's girls are very good too. If you
They're
like to
very good.
watch some fast-paced, you know, there you go.
On the PowerPoints this week, Northwest and Class B came in at 15th. And of course, it's early, so the PowerPoints sometimes don't really, you know, give you a really good indication of what's going on. But St. Cecilia girls, they're number 1 in the PowerPoints. They're coming in 4-0, 48 points out of a perfect 50.
That is amazing,
Yes.
though. You ought to watch those girls play. That is I always call them the thieves, the little thieves, because they have more steals and layups in a game than I've ever seen, and they'll just frustrate teams.
Right.
You know, by halftime you're thinking, what am I going to do with these? You know,
Right.
so.
And you know that one of the principles of a press is you don't, you know, a pressing hawking defensive team is not necessarily that you get a steal, it's that you irritate people.
Hawking, I like that.
You like
George.
hawking?
Yeah, it's hawking.
Get
Man.
that? Yeah.
And we think we're old. That's
Yeah,
great.
that's right. Yeah. Well, you get lucky every once in a while. Wood River comes in 15th in C2. So we have, you know, a couple teams there. Class D1 Heartland's girls team, they're 9th in the PowerPoints, and the Class D2 Hampton is 11th. So we'll keep an eye on those PowerPoints. You know, the PowerPoints, as most of you viewers know, will determine seedings and that type of thing. And so, you know, they become much more important down the road.
And our friends down in Giltner, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but our friends down in Giltner have a good boys and girls team, both also.
Right,
So
yeah. So, you know, one loss and it really drops you in the points this time
Yeah.
of year. Probably doesn't mean that much.
No.
So in the Hoop will return on New Year's Eve. We'll do a show New Year's Eve. We'll talk
right.
about some of the results from some holiday tournaments. All the boys and girls teams will have another week or so to play, and then they'll take a moratorium. There's a 5-day moratorium in there someplace, and so the kids can't play. And then we'll catch back up to that on December 31st, talk a little bit about the tournaments, and we'll look forward to broadcasting some games after the first of the year.
Absolutely.
So for Bobby Mills, I'm George Ayub. Denton Cushing, our producer, director, and spiritual leader, is behind the camera giving us directions. And we will be back on December 31st with another edition of In the Hoop. Thanks for joining us.